Alara had always felt more at home among the trees than among people. The villagers whispered about the dark forest at the edge of Eldrin, saying it was cursed, that wolves roamed with intelligence beyond reason, and that those who ventured too far rarely returned. But to Alara, the forest was alive, full of quiet magic she could feel in her bones. One evening, as the sun sank behind jagged peaks and painted the sky in deep crimson, she walked along a narrow trail collecting herbs. Her basket was nearly full with nightshade blossoms, valerian roots, and a small pouch of lavender. She hummed softly to herself, a song her mother had taught her, one her mother had said could soothe both human and beast alike. The air shifted suddenly. The wind died and a silence fell over the forest so heavy it felt alive. Then came the faintest whimper, almost lost beneath the rustling leaves. Alara froze, her heart beating fast. The sound came again, closer now. A pitiful, aching sound like pain wrapped in fear. She followed it carefully, moving over roots and stones, her hands gripping the basket tightly. There, beneath a broken branch and tangled brush, lay a wolf. Its fur was dark, almost black, marred with blood and mud. Its breathing was shallow, and its golden eyes opened briefly, filled with terror and exhaustion. Alara's first instinct was fear. Wolves were dangerous, especially ones alone and wounded. But then she saw something else. A spark of intelligence, a desperate plea in those golden eyes. Her heart softened. "I'm here," she whispered. "I won't hurt you." Kneeling slowly, she pulled a clean cloth from her bag and began to examine the wounds. A large gash ran across the wolf's side, and a deep cut on its paw made every movement agonizing. Alara worked with trembling hands, dabbing at the blood with herbs that stung but were healing. The wolf growled low in its throat, not in anger, but in pain and warning. "You're not going to die tonight," she said softly. "Not if I can help it." Hours passed. She fed the wolf small pieces of dried meat she had in her pack, and though it refused at first, hunger eventually overcame caution. Every time it tried to move, Alara would gently lay a hand on its shoulder, calming it with her voice and her touch. As night fully descended, she built a small fire in a stone ring, the flames casting dancing shadows over the trees. The wolf lay close but not too close, its eyes never leaving her. Something about it felt unnatural, not just the intelligence but the way the air seemed to hum when it moved. She shivered, not from the cold but from a strange awareness that she was no longer alone in a forest of whispers. Suddenly the wolf shifted, muscles tensing, eyes narrowing. Alara froze. A low growl rumbled from its chest. From somewhere deep in the shadows a wind howled, carrying with it a scent that was not of this world, metal, earth, and something older than the mountains. The wolf's body grew larger in the moonlight, the fur bristling, the golden eyes glowing with a strange intensity. Alara's heart raced. She had heard stories of wolves who were more than wolves, creatures bound with magic older than any kingdom. But fear did not overpower her. She took a slow step forward, holding out her hands. "It's me," she said. "I saved you. I won't let anyone hurt you again." The wolf's growl softened. It studied her for a long, tense moment, then slowly, impossibly, it began to change. Its fur shimmered like liquid shadow, muscles lengthened, and its head lifted higher and higher until, with a sound like cracking thunder, it rose on two legs. Alara stumbled backward, her mouth open in shock. Before her stood a man, taller than any human she had ever seen, cloaked in darkness that seemed to absorb the light of the fire. His eyes were the same golden color, filled with both wildness and intelligence. His hair was black as midnight, falling past broad shoulders. Even in his human form, the power in him was undeniable, a force that made the ground beneath her feel smaller, weaker. You're the wolf?" Alara whispered, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. The man knelt, lowering his gaze to hers, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. "You saved me," he said, his voice deep and melodic, vibrating with authority and something softer, almost longing. "And now, I claim you." Alara's heart leapt. She wanted to back away, but her legs refused to obey. Fear warred with fascination, awe, and something far deeper, a pull she could not explain. "Claim me?" she repeated, her voice shaking. "Yes," he said simply. "You found me in my weakest moment, yet you did not turn away. No one does this. No one ever has." The wind picked up again, scattering the firelight, and the shadows in the forest stretched like living things. The trees seemed to whisper secrets to one another, and for a moment, Alara felt as though she were standing in a world apart from her own. a world ruled by ancient, immortal laws that she had only glimpsed in old stories. "I don't understand," she said, trembling. "I'm just a healer. I don't belong in your world." The man's gaze softened, yet there was a weight in it that made her knees weak. "Belonging has nothing to do with choice," he murmured. "The forest chooses. The wolves choose, and now, I have chosen you." He rose, towering over her, and held out a hand, not threatening but commanding her to meet him on equal terms. Her heart pounded. She could feel the raw strength in his body, the quiet power that bent the very air around him, and yet beneath it, she sensed a vulnerability, a loneliness that had survived centuries. Alara hesitated. The stories of cursed kings and immortal beasts filled her mind. Every rational thought screamed for her to run, but her hands, dirty with earth and herbs, reached out and touched his arm. The moment her fingers met his skin, warmth spread through her, a current that made her heart skip. "You're real," she breathed. "I am," he said, a faint smile ghosting his lips. "And because you saved me, our fates are bound. Not by law, not by desire alone, but by life itself. You cannot undo what has begun." She swallowed hard, staring into those golden eyes. Her life, once predictable and quiet, now felt like a fragile thread in a storm. Every instinct told her she was stepping into danger, yet she could not turn away. The pull between them was magnetic, ancient, almost mythical in its intensity. Suddenly, the sound of snapping branches echoed through the forest. Both froze. From the shadows, shapes moved, eyes glinting, bodies silent but powerful. Other wolves, larger and darker than any she had seen, emerged, surrounding them. The man's eyes narrowed and his posture shifted into something primal, protective, commanding. Alara's breath caught. "Are they dangerous?" she whispered. "They recognize me," he said, his voice like steel wrapped in silk. "They will not harm you. Not if I am here. But this forest tests all who enter it. You have already proven your courage by saving me. Now, you must survive it still." The wolves circled, sniffing the air, their bodies tense yet respectful. The man turned to Alara, his gaze intense. "Tonight you are mine to protect," he said. And the words were neither boast nor threat. They were a promise, heavy with meaning. Alara felt her pulse quicken. A strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Her quiet life, her simple existence had vanished in the blink of an eye. The forest, the wolves, the storm, and the man before her, all combined into a force that left her both terrified and alive in a way she had never known. As the night deepened, she realized one truth she could not ignore. She had stepped into a world of shadows, magic, and ancient power, and there was no turning back. The man who had been a wolf, an alpha king, as the legends would later name him, had claimed her, and she would follow. Even as the firelight flickered and the wind whispered through the trees, Alara felt it in her bones. Her life had changed forever. The forest seemed to close around them as dawn broke, painting the treetops in gold and silver. Alara's mind raced and her heart pounded against her chest like a drum. She could hardly believe what had happened the night before. The wolf, the transformation, the towering man with golden eyes who now regarded her as something more than just a healer. Yet, despite fear, a part of her could not deny the pull. Something in him called to a part of her she did not know existed. His presence was overwhelming, not just in strength but in a quiet intensity that filled the air. Every step he took seemed to make the earth itself respond. "Where are we going?" she finally asked, her voice small though steady. "Home," he said simply. The word carried weight, a promise and a warning at the same time. "You will see where I live, and understand why I cannot let you go." Alara nodded, gripping her basket tightly. She had no choice but to follow. As they walked deeper into the forest, the landscape changed. The trees grew taller, their trunks wider than she had ever seen. Moss hung in thick curtains from the branches, and the air shimmered with a strange energy. Birds and small creatures watched silently from the canopy, and she felt as though the forest itself was aware of her presence. The man who had been a wolf walked beside her with a grace that was almost frightening. His movements were precise, controlled, yet effortless, like a shadow gliding across the land. Though he spoke little, every glance, every subtle shift in posture conveyed authority. Alara felt a mix of awe and trepidation. "I need to understand," she said after a while, breaking the silence. "Why me? Why now?" He paused, turning his golden eyes toward her. "Because you showed mercy," he said. "You saved a life when it would have been easier to run. That is rare. That is powerful. That is why I claimed you. Elara frowned, trying to make sense of his words. Claimed me. I do not belong in your world. I am not strong, not powerful. I am just me. You underestimate yourself, he said, his voice gentle yet commanding. Strength is not always shown in battle or in rule. Courage, mercy, compassion, these are the forces that can change kingdoms and hearts. You have them in abundance and you do not even know it. She felt a strange warmth spread through her chest at his words. For centuries she had believed that her life was small, quiet, and unremarkable. Yet here was a man, no, a king, who looked at her as though she mattered more than anything else in the world. And still, fear lingered. They walked for hours, the forest thickening around them, until finally they reached a cliff that overlooked a vast expanse of jagged mountains and shadowed valleys. At the edge of the cliff stood a castle unlike any Elara had seen. Towers of black stone rose like teeth into the sky, and the walls shimmered with a faint otherworldly glow. Wolves roamed freely along the battlements, their golden eyes gleaming like stars in the morning light. This is, Elara began, but words failed her. My home, he said simply. And now, you are part of it. The gates of the castle opened before them as if expecting them. Wolves slinked to either side, silent sentinels of the Alpha King's domain. Elara felt a shiver run down her spine. There was power here, ancient and undeniable, and she felt the weight of it pressing against her very soul. Inside, the castle was both magnificent and intimidating. Corridors were lined with dark tapestries depicting wolves, battles, and kings of old. The air smelled of stone, earth, and something else, something magical that made her senses tingle. The Alpha King led her through the halls with quiet authority, and she noticed the way the wolves followed at a distance, respectful yet vigilant. Finally, they arrived at a room filled with soft light from a high window. He turned to her, and for a moment the commanding presence shifted into something softer, more human. You must rest, he said, his voice low. You will need your strength for what is to come. Elara shook her head. I cannot rest. I need to understand everything. Who you are, why the forest obeys you, why you claim me. He regarded her silently for a long moment, then sighed. I am Kaelin, Alpha of this realm, bound by a curse older than any living man. I was once human, a prince who defied dark magic. For my defiance I was merged with a wolf spirit, granted immortality, power, and the burden of solitude. For centuries I have ruled alone, feared by all, touched by none, until you. Elara felt a chill run through her, yet she did not move away. A curse? She asked. And yet, you are still magnificent, strong, even beautiful. Kaelin's eyes softened, but there was a shadow in them, centuries of loneliness and sorrow. Beauty is only skin deep, he said. Power is only useful when you have someone to share it with. You are the first human in 100 years who has seen me without fear, without greed, without the desire to control me. That is why you are bound to me. The words settled over her like a strange wind. She had always thought her life small and insignificant. Yet here she was, standing in a castle of shadows, next to a man who was more than human, and whose fate was intertwined with hers. I don't know if I can belong here, she admitted softly. This world is not mine. Kaelin stepped closer, and the air between them seemed to hum. Belonging is not a choice, he said. It is given. The forest gave you to me, the wolves gave you to me, and I have chosen you. You cannot turn away now, Elara, not without risking everything you care about. Fear clutched at her heart. The thought of losing her freedom, of being bound to a being so powerful, so untouchable, it was terrifying. Yet beneath that fear there was a strange pull, an unexplainable attraction. Something in her whispered that this man, this Alpha King, was not just a danger but a force she needed in her life. Days passed, and Elara began to learn the ways of the forest and the wolves. Kaelin allowed her to move freely within the castle, but never far from his sight. She watched the wolves obey his silent commands, saw how the land itself responded to his presence, and she began to understand the depth of his power and the loneliness it carried. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the mountains in blood-red light, Kaelin took her to a balcony overlooking the valley. The wolves lay below, calm and obedient, yet their eyes seemed to follow every movement. You are learning quickly, he said, his voice soft, almost admiring. Not just about the forest, but about yourself. You have courage even when fear tries to bind you. That is rare in humans. Ilara looked down at the wolves, then back at him. And you? She asked quietly. Are you happy? Do you even know what happiness is anymore? Kalen's eyes darkened with memory. Centuries of battles, losses, and betrayals flashing behind his gaze. Happiness is a fragile thing, he said. I thought I had long forgotten it. But with you, I feel it again, and that frightens me. Ilara's heart ached at the vulnerability in him. The Alpha King, so strong, so feared, revealed a truth she had not expected. He was human beneath the curse, capable of longing, capable of fear, capable of love. Suddenly a howl echoed through the valley, louder than any she had heard before. The wolves stirred, ears pricked, bodies tense. Kalen's hand went to the hilt of a sword at his side, his eyes flashing gold. They have sensed danger, he murmured. Arrival Alpha, one who seeks my throne. He will not stop until he has what he desires, and what he desires is not mercy. Ilara's pulse quickened. Then we must fight? Kalen turned to her, his expression unreadable. Perhaps. But it is not just my fight. By saving me, you have entered my world, and you will stand beside me. Whether you are ready or not, the forest has chosen your path. Her breath caught. She had saved a wolf, and in doing so, had stepped into a life that would never be simple again. The Alpha King had claimed her, and the shadows of the forest whispered that their bond was more than chance. It was destiny. And as the sun dipped below the jagged peaks, Ilara realized that the life she had known was gone forever. The wolf, the man, the forest, the power, it all called to her, and she could not resist. The Castle of Shadows was quiet in the early morning, yet Ilara felt an energy in the air. Like the pulse of the forest itself was reaching through the stone walls. She had spent days wandering the corridors, learning their secrets and observing the wolves that moved like silent guardians. And yet there was one mystery she could not penetrate. Kalen. He was the Alpha King, feared by all who knew his name, yet in her presence, he revealed pieces of himself that no human had ever been allowed to see. His golden eyes, which once seemed like molten fire, now held glimmers of sorrow, loneliness, and even longing. Ilara, he said one morning, his voice soft, almost hesitant. There is something I must show you. Something you need to understand about me, and about the forest. She followed him through a hidden staircase down winding corridors that led to a chamber carved into the living stone of the mountain. The walls glimmered faintly, etched with ancient runes that pulsed with faint light. In the center of the room was a pool of water so clear it reflected the sky, yet it shimmered with strange colors, as if the surface itself was alive. This is the mirror pool, Kalen said. It shows not only what is, but what was and what might be. Look into it, and you will see the truth of my curse. Ilara hesitated, her fingers brushing the cool stone. A curse? Kalen nodded, his eyes darkening. I was once a human prince many centuries ago. I sought to protect my people from dark magic that threatened our lands. But the magic was stronger than any army, stronger than any sword. It merged me with the spirit of a wolf, granting me strength, speed, and immortality, but at a cost. I cannot live as a man alone. I cannot love freely without risk. I am bound by the forest, by the wolves, by the curse itself. Ilara looked into the pool, and for the first time she saw him. Not the towering, golden-eyed Alpha King, but the young man he once had been. A prince with hope in his eyes, bravery in his stance, and the weight of duty pressing against his heart. And then she saw the moment of the curse, the wolf spirit merging with him, the pain and isolation that followed. It is terrible, she whispered. To live so long, to carry all of that. Kalen's gaze met hers. It is more than terrible. It is lonely. I have ruled over wolves, lands, and kingdoms, but I have been without someone to share it with. Until now. Ilara's heart ached at his words. She had seen power before, but she had never seen the burden that came with it. Here was a man, feared by all, yet vulnerable in ways no one had ever been allowed to see. And she had healed him once, saved him from death, and now she was part of a story far larger than herself. Do you wish for freedom? She asked gently. Or do you wish for the curse to end? Kalen's lips pressed into a thin line. The curse cannot fully end, not without great risk. But it can change. It can be tempered. If someone is brave enough to face it with me. Ilara felt a shiver of both fear and anticipation. She did not fully understand what that meant, but she sensed that she was being called to something extraordinary, something dangerous, something that could bind their fates forever. Days turned into nights, and Alara learned more of Kalen's world. The wolves obeyed his silent commands, hunting and patrolling without a sound. The forest itself seemed to respond to his will, the leaves shifting, the rivers bending, and the winds carrying messages only he could hear. Yet through it all, he never forced her to obey. Instead, he guided, protected, and occasionally tested her. One evening, as the moon rose high and cast silver light across the balcony of the castle, Kalen approached her silently. The wind rustled her hair, and she felt the tension in the air before she even saw him. "Do you know why I brought you here?" he asked, his voice low, almost intimate. Alara looked at him, her heart skipping a beat. "To see the castle? To understand the forest?" Kalen shook his head. "No, to understand you. To see if your heart can endure what is coming. The curse. It is not only mine. It will test you, your courage, your loyalty, and your soul. It will demand more than you realize." She swallowed hard, feeling both fear and a strange thrill. I don't know if I can face it." "You already face it," Kalen said, stepping closer. "Every moment you stay here, every act of courage, every choice to trust, you are facing it. You are stronger than you believe, Alara. Stronger than most humans. That is why I claimed you." The words made her pulse quicken. She felt a mixture of awe and fear. He was the most powerful being she had ever encountered, yet he treated her as an equal in spirit, not just in presence. Suddenly, a distant howl broke the quiet of the night. The wolves below the balcony stiffened, ears pricked. Kalen's body shifted, tense and alert. "A rival alpha moves through the forest," he murmured. "He senses weakness, and he seeks to take what is mine." Alara felt her stomach tighten. "Then we must fight?" Kalen's golden eyes met hers, filled with both warning and something else, something she could not name. "Perhaps, but this is not only my fight. By saving me, by entering my world, you are now part of it. You cannot turn away, and neither can I." The threat was real, and yet in that moment a bond formed between them, not just of survival but of understanding, trust, and unspoken connection. Kalen took her hand, something he had never done before. His touch was warm, grounding, and it seemed to pulse with the same energy that filled the castle and the forest. "You will need to learn," he said, "to see the forest as I do, to sense the wolves as I do, to feel the magic that binds all things together. Only then can you stand by my side and survive what comes." Alara nodded, determination mingling with fear. She had saved him once, and now she would need to do more than she had ever imagined. She would need to be brave, clever, and steadfast. Over the following days, Kalen began teaching her the ways of the forest and the wolves. He showed her how to listen to the subtle movements of the trees, the changes in the wind, and the faint whispers of the earth beneath her feet. She learned to understand the language of the wolves, their growls, their howls, and even the silent communication that passed between them. Through it all, Kalen watched her closely, not with judgment but with fascination. "You learn quickly," he said one evening as they walked along a cliff overlooking the valley. "Faster than any human I have known. Faster than some who have lived for centuries." Alara smiled faintly, though she felt exhausted. "It is not just learning. I want to understand you. To understand this world you protect." Kalen's expression softened, the shadow of centuries of loneliness melting for a moment. "And that is why I need you. Not only to survive this night, but to survive what lies ahead. The rival alpha, the dark magic that once cursed me, it will not stop. It never stops. But with you by my side, there is hope." She looked into his golden eyes, seeing both the king and the wolf, the immortal and the man. The forest, the castle, the wolves, they all seemed to wait with bated breath, as if aware that something monumental was about to unfold. And then, from the shadows of the valley below, a movement caught her eye. A dark figure, faster and larger than any normal wolf, moving with purpose toward the castle. Alara's heart raced. The threat was real, imminent, and powerful. Kalen sensed it too. His body shifted, ready to defend, but his eyes never left hers. "Tonight," he said, "you will see the truth of the curse. You will see the danger that comes with my world, and you will have to choose. To stand with me, or turn away forever." Alara's pulse quickened. Fear, awe, and an undeniable pull toward the Alpha King filled her. She had saved a dying wolf. And now, she was bound to the most powerful king of the forest, standing on the edge of a world she could not yet fully comprehend. The forest seemed to hold its breath as the night deepened, the wind carrying the scent of the approaching rival. The wolves growled softly, a warning, and Kaelin's golden eyes glimmered like molten fire. Elara knew, in the core of her being, that nothing would ever be the same. Her life, her heart, and her very fate were entwined with the Alpha King and the forest he ruled, and when the rival came, she would have to face it, or risk losing everything. The moon hung low over the northern mountains, casting silver light across the castle of shadows. Wolves padded silently along the battlements, their golden eyes reflecting the light of the stars. Inside the castle, Elara paced the high balcony, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Kaelin stood beside her, tall and unwavering, the wind catching his dark hair and the cloak that hung from his shoulders. His presence was magnetic, commanding, yet there was a softness in the way he watched her, a caution, a respect, and an almost tender pride. "The rival Alpha approaches," he murmured, his golden eyes scanning the forest below. "He is skilled, dangerous, and he seeks to challenge me for my throne. He will not hesitate. He will not care for your safety. Except that it is part of me now." Elara's pulse quickened. "Then we fight?" she asked, trying to steady her voice. Kaelin's lips pressed into a firm line. "Perhaps. But tonight it is more than a battle. It is a trial for you as much as it is for me. You must see, feel, and understand the forest as I do. You must learn to trust your instincts and mine. Only then can you stand by my side without fear." Her hands trembled slightly, but she nodded. She had followed him this far. She had saved him once, and now she had chosen to remain by his side. She would not falter. The forest below began to stir. Shadows moved quickly between trees, larger and darker than any ordinary wolf. The rival Alpha was no mere predator. He carried magic, cunning, and a will to conquer that rivaled Kaelin's own. Elara swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the night pressing upon her. Kaelin turned to her, his golden eyes locking on hers. "Stay close. Trust your instincts and trust me. We move together, and the forest will respond to us both." Elara nodded again, and together they descended the stone steps of the castle, stepping lightly into the night. Wolves flanked them, silent and vigilant, their fur glimmering in the moonlight. The tension in the air was palpable, as though the entire forest held its breath. Suddenly, the rival Alpha emerged from the shadows. He was massive, with eyes that burned like amber, fur dark as midnight, and an aura of raw power that made the ground beneath them seem less solid. Kaelin stepped forward, and the forest itself seemed to bend around him. The leaves rustled, the wind carried whispers, and the wolves' growls rose in a low chorus. Elara's heart pounded. She had never seen such power in any living being, and yet she felt a strange calm in Kaelin's presence. His hand brushed lightly against hers, grounding her, reminding her that she was not alone. The rival Alpha lunged, a blur of shadow and teeth, and Kaelin met him with strength and precision. The battle was swift, brutal, and almost supernatural. Wolves circled them, their howls echoing through the mountains. Yet neither Kaelin nor his rival paid them much attention. They were locked in a duel of wills and power. Elara stood behind a fallen tree, clutching a small bundle of herbs she had brought, her mind racing. Kaelin had taught her to sense the energy of the forest, to feel the movements of the wolves, and to watch for subtle signs of danger. She focused, breathing deeply, letting the knowledge and instincts she had learned guide her. As the rival Alpha gained the upper hand, Kaelin faltered for a brief moment, a flicker of pain or distraction, and Elara acted. She hurled a small pouch of crushed herbs toward the opponent. The air shimmered with a strange magic, the scent overwhelming the rival Alpha, slowing his movements just enough for Kaelin to regain control. Kaelin's eyes met hers, a mixture of surprise and admiration shining through. "You saved me," he said, his voice low, almost in awe. Elara's heart leapt. "We save each other," she whispered, realizing that their bond was stronger than fear, stronger than danger. Together they overcame the rival Alpha, driving him back into the shadows. The wolves howled in triumph, circling their king and the human who had proven herself. Kaelin stood tall, chest heaving, yet his eyes never left Elara. "You have passed the first trial," he said, his voice steady now, though his chest still rose and fell with exertion. "You have shown courage, instinct, and trust. But the trial is not over. There will be others. The curse, it tests not only me, but those who are bound to me. Ilara's pulse was still racing, but she felt a fierce pride. She had faced danger, fought alongside the Alpha King, and survived. She had proven herself in ways she had never imagined possible. Kaelin took her hand again, this time more deliberately. "There is something you must understand about the curse," he continued. "It is not only a test of strength, it is a test of heart. The wolf spirit within me seeks dominance, control, and isolation. It does not easily accept companionship or love. By saving me, by standing beside me, you challenge it. You challenge centuries of solitude. That is why this trial is crucial." Ilara looked into his golden eyes, seeing the man beneath the power, the king beneath the curse. "And if I fail?" she asked, though she did not want to consider the answer. Kaelin's gaze softened. "Then the curse will endure and our bond will be tested in ways you cannot yet imagine. But I do not believe you will fail. You have strength I have not seen in centuries. You have courage, wisdom, and heart." The night passed slowly after the battle. Kaelin taught her how to read the signs of the forest more deeply, to sense the movement of magic, to hear whispers in the wind, and to feel the presence of the wolves as extensions of their own senses. Ilara practiced diligently, her confidence growing with each passing hour. Yet, amidst the training, there were moments of quiet vulnerability. Kaelin would sometimes pause, staring into the distance, a shadow crossing his features. Ilara learned that even kings, even alpha kings, carried burdens that were invisible to the world. She reached for him then, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "You do not have to carry it alone," she whispered. Kaelin's eyes met hers, a flicker of something long hidden showing in their depths. Gratitude, relief, and perhaps the first hint of trust in centuries. "I have been alone for too long," he said softly. "But with you, I feel less burdened. I feel hope." Ilara felt her chest tighten. This man, who was stronger and more powerful than anyone she had ever known, leaned on her trust and courage. And she, who had once believed her life was small and unremarkable, realized that she had the power to change not only her own fate, but his as well. Suddenly a howl echoed across the mountains, louder and more urgent than before. Wolves stirred, ears pricked, and the air itself seemed to vibrate with warning. Kaelin's posture stiffened. "The rival Alpha is not gone," he said, his voice sharp now. "He returns and he brings others. The forest will be tested, and you will have to choose how far your courage can reach. Will you stand with me fully or turn away?" Ilara swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her choice. She had saved a dying wolf, and in doing so, she had entered a world of ancient magic, kings, and curses. She had faced danger, proven herself, and learned to trust in Kaelin's strength and in her own. I stand with you," she said finally, her voice clear and steady, though her heart raced. "Not out of fear, not out of obligation, but because I choose to." Kaelin's expression softened, and for the first time a faint smile touched his lips. "Then we move forward," he said. "Together. The forest, the wolves, the curse. All of it will test us. But tonight you have shown what you are capable of, and I will not let anything harm you." The wind rustled through the trees. The wolves howled in a low chorus, and the stars shone like distant sentinels watching the bond between human and Alpha King deepen. Ilara realized that she was no longer just a healer wandering the forest. She was a part of something far greater, far older, and far more dangerous. And as the first light of dawn touched the mountains, she knew one truth she could not ignore. Her life, her heart, and her very soul were now entwined with Kaelin, the Alpha King. The trials were far from over. The curse had not been broken, and the rival Alpha still lurked in the shadows. But for the first time, she felt a strength within herself that mirrored his own, a courage that could face whatever the forest, the curse, or destiny would demand. The forest was alive with tension, the air thick with the scent of pine, earth, and danger. The rival Alpha had retreated, but Kaelin knew better than to trust the shadows completely. There were forces in the forest older and darker than any living wolf, forces that had shaped his curse centuries ago, and forces that would not rest until his power and his life were broken. Ilara stood beside him on the cliff that overlooked the valley. The wind tugged at her hair, carrying whispers of the trees, the distant cry of wolves, and the subtle tremor of magic beneath the earth. She had grown stronger, braver, and more attuned to the forest than she could have imagined. The nights of fear had forged a new courage in her heart, a courage born not of defiance but of choice. She had chosen Kaelin, and she had chosen this world. Kaelin's golden eyes scanned the horizon, Every muscle in his body coiled like a spring. The rival alpha was only the beginning, he said quietly. The magic that cursed me. It stirs again. Tonight we face the source of the darkness, and only together can we survive it. Elara felt a thrill of fear mixed with determination. She had faced him before. His wrath, his power, the fearsome presence of the Alpha King. And she had stood by his side. Whatever came now, she would not turn away. The forest began to shift as night fell. Trees whispered with ancient voices and shadows deepened, moving unnaturally. Wolves padded through the underbrush, their fur bristling, their eyes glowing like lanterns in the darkness. And then, from the deepest part of the forest, a figure emerged, a creature neither fully human nor wolf, cloaked in darkness, its eyes burning with a malevolent light. The air trembled with energy, and Kalen growled low in his throat, the sound vibrating through the valley. The source of the curse, he said, his voice steady but dangerous. It seeks to reclaim what it lost, and it will not stop. Elara gripped his hand, the warmth grounding her. We face it together, she said. Kalen's eyes softened, and for a moment the Alpha King and the man beneath the wolf merged into one. A protector, a lover, a king bound by both duty and heart. Together, he echoed. The creature moved with unnatural speed, and the forest itself seemed to resist it. Kalen shifted, his form blending with the shadow of the wolf, muscles rippling, senses alert. Elara followed instinctively, her training and intuition guiding her. She sensed the currents of magic around them, felt the subtle movements of the forest, and understood the wolves' silent warnings. The battle began with a roar. Kalen met the creature head-on, his golden eyes blazing, his claws and strength tearing through the shadows. Elara stayed close, using the knowledge Kalen had taught her, drawing on herbs, the energy of the forest, and her own courage. She moved with precision, anticipating the creature's attacks, helping to protect Kalen when it lunged with a speed and power that could overwhelm even him. You are stronger than you know, Kalen said, his voice low, almost a growl of admiration, as he parried the creature's strike. Elara felt a surge of confidence. I have you, she whispered, and the forest is with us. The shadows twisted, forming tendrils of dark magic, attempting to ensnare them both. Kalen roared, breaking free, but the force of the curse's manifestation was immense. Elara closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the forest, the whispers of the wolves, the energy flowing through Kalen, and then through her. She reached out with all her courage, all her will, and let the power of choice and love guide her. A blinding light erupted from her hands, warm and pure, pushing back the shadows, unraveling the dark tendrils, and forcing the cursed creature to stumble. Kalen's eyes widened in surprise and pride. You control it? He asked. Elara opened her eyes, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. Not control, she said, her voice steady. Balance. I give the forest the strength to fight, and the curse cannot harm what it cannot dominate. Together they pressed forward. Kalen struck with precision, Elara supporting, the wolves circling to flank the creature. Every strike, every movement was in perfect synchronization. A dance of shadow and light, strength and courage, fear and trust. Finally, with a roar that shook the mountains, Kalen and Elara together drove the curse's manifestation back into the deepest shadows of the forest. The creature screamed, a sound that echoed through both time and space before dissolving into mist. The forest sighed, the trees swaying, the wolves howling in victory. Kalen stood tall, chest heaving, golden eyes glowing with residual energy. He turned to Elara, and for the first time the weight of centuries seemed to lift from his shoulders. You did this, he said softly. We did this. And because of you, the curse is weaker now. Not gone, but weakened. Elara felt relief flood through her. She had saved a wolf once. Now, she had helped save a king, a forest, and perhaps even the world. Her hands trembled as she reached for Kalen, and he took her into his arms, holding her close. Not as a protector to a weak human, but as an equal, as a partner in both struggle and triumph. You are bound to me, Kalen whispered, his lips brushing her hair, his voice filled with both awe and tenderness. Not because of the curse, but because of what you are. Because of the courage and heart you carry. You are part of my world, and I cannot imagine it without you. Elara pressed her hand to his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart beneath the wolf and king, beneath the centuries of pain and power. "I am not afraid," she said softly. "I choose to be here, I with you, for whatever comes." For the first time in centuries, Kalen smiled fully, a rare expression that lit his golden eyes with warmth. "Then let it be so," he said. "No curse, no shadow, no rival can break the bond we have forged tonight." The wolves circled them, howling in unity, their golden eyes reflecting the first light of dawn. The forest seemed to lean closer, acknowledging the bond between the human and the Alpha King, the courage and love that had tempered centuries of darkness. Ilara looked out over the valley, the mountains glowing in the early morning sun, and felt a sense of peace she had never known. The trials were not over. Kalen's curse remained. The forest held secrets yet to reveal, and danger might still lurk. But for the first time, she felt ready. She was not just a healer in the shadows of the forest. She was a part of something greater, bound by trust, courage, and an unbreakable bond. Kalen stepped beside her, his golden eyes scanning the horizon, the energy of the forest humming through him. "We will face what comes together," he said firmly. "The curse, the rival Alpha, any threat, nothing will stand against us if we remain united." Ilara squeezed his hand, feeling strength radiate through both of them. "Together," she repeated, her voice clear, unwavering. And as the sun rose, casting light over the forest and mountains, they stood side by side, the Alpha King and the human who had saved a dying wolf. Two souls bound by courage, trust, and a bond that could not be broken, a bond that would endure curses, shadows, and the tests of fate itself. The forest whispered in approval. The wolves howled in celebration, and the valley seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. A new chapter had begun, one of balance, trust, and love that could withstand even the oldest and darkest curses. Ilara knew that life would never be simple again, but simplicity had never been her destiny. Adventure, courage, and a bond that transcended fear. That was her new reality. And for the first time, she embraced it fully. Kalen turned to her, his expression serious yet tender. "No matter what comes," he said, "you are mine, and I am yours, bound by more than fate, more than magic, bound by heart and choice." Ilara smiled, feeling a warmth that spread through her entire being. "Then let us face it, all of it. Together." The Alpha King nodded, golden eyes gleaming, and together they descended into the heart of the castle, the wolves following close behind. The forest awaited them, alive with possibility, danger, and wonder. And in that moment, Ilara understood what it meant to be truly brave, not in defiance of fear, but in the embrace of love, trust, and destiny. The curse had not been broken entirely, but it had been tempered by courage and heart. The shadows that haunted Kalen's centuries had been challenged, weakened, and now stood against a bond stronger than any magic. And as they moved forward, the forest, the wolves, and the Alpha King himself acknowledged that a new era had begun, one in which light and shadow, human and wolf, courage and love walked together, unafraid.